Hey guys, welcome to another episode on the MoneyfitMD show. Whether you're listening on the podcast or on the YouTube, I just want to say that thank you for being part of my world. I do not take it for granted that we get to hang out. So I have an awesome guest today, and I'm looking forward to just learning more about her for myself as well. And I love these conversations because it's almost like I'm sitting down chilling, coffee in hand, hanging out, and y'all get to be part of the conversation. So without further ado, I want to say welcome, Dr. Brittne.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
So let's see. I think it's been I don't know if it was like 2 years ago was the first time we corresponded. Was it 2 years ago? I don't know. Time is flying these days, but it's great to see you, to see the things that you're doing in the world. And I'm excited that people get to hear about your story and hear about your journey. But for those that are listening that haven't met you, tell us, who are you? What do you do? What's this woman on the camera talking into the ears? This beautiful morning, afternoon, or evening, or hopefully it's not in the middle of the night because y'all should be sleeping or at work, trying to sleep, whatever. Talk to us.
Yes. So I am Brittne Halford. I am born and raised in Flint, Michigan, and that's where my humble beginnings are. I always say that because sometimes when you're going along your journey, you feel that you should have had this. And I just like to tell people that wherever you are, you can start. So, born and raised in Flint, Michigan, and kind of matriculated through medical school, residency. And at the end of that, I had a large student loan burden. Maybe not as large as some others, but for me, it felt like a heavy load. And knowing that I would be the first physician in my family to have a high income and now have this high debt burden, I had to figure out a way to get rid of it. And how I did that was to aggressively pay off my student loans. I paid off $138,000 in 2 years and 9 months. Now, after doing that, I'm like, okay, if I could do this, then what else can I do? And I really started to delve into the world of personal finance. And the reason why was not only that I knew that I would have to reach back to help other family members, to help other people in my community, but what I saw is that the narrative of people who look like me, people who are of a darker hue, people who are women, oftentimes didn't have the same financial education, the same opportunities. And I wanted to fracture that. I wanted to make an impact towards a meaningful change. And I started learning about money, testing out the waters a little bit, and have really grown to make impact within women's lives through wealth coaching for women in healthcare. And then I linked up with my business partner and podcast co-host, Dr. Alicia Taylor, and we together started the Wealth Minded MD podcast. And we're more than a podcast. We have other products to really help women physicians and women in healthcare and others in healthcare to really make good money decisions. It's not about, if you're doing everything right. We want to say that personal finance is personal, and we just want you to do what's best for you, making an informed decision. And, I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy for what the future holds for us. And I'm just so grateful that there is space for women like us to share our message.
I love it. I love it. So I'm curious to go back when you decided that, okay, I'm done with residency. What was your residency in, by the way?
Internal medicine. So I'm currently located in Boston, and I work as a hospitalist.
Fantastic. So when you finished your internal medicine residency and you're like, okay, I have all those loans, when it was that moment of trying to figure it out, like what kind of tools did you use or employ in order to help? Because many times when people are at that interface, they're like, okay, I want, but I don't know how to get. So that gap in between going from I want this debt, the student loans, and my audience knows that I don't think that debt is bad. I think it can be used as a tool. So this is definitely not like a drop everything up, you have debt conversation, but more of like, how do you go from I wish, I'm not sure why the song comes. I'm such, guys, this is what y'all get. I'm wishing for the one I love. Okay, all right. So going from like wishing to like actually creating a plan. Like, tell us about that guy.
Yeah. So when I first started out with residency, I thought that I was going to do public service loan forgiveness. And I finished residency in 2016. So at that time, there were very few people who had gotten their loans forgiven. And we know, even with student loans right now, it is sheer madness. The government is doing their thing in Congress, and they trying to figure it out. So, if you have student loans and you're listening to this, and my apologies, and I just keep going. So I just figured that because there was decent amount of parity with the income that I was making and the amount of student loan debt that I had, that I could aggressively pay it off without any sacrifice of my joy. Now, how I did that is I started to educate myself. What are the options? So PSLF is one option, but there are other forgiveness options out there. Do I actually want to pay back the student loans? And once I've come to terms with, I'm going to pay it back. Now, what does that look like? What other things do I need to know about myself, know about the repayment options, so that I can create a strategy that allows me to live and invest and pay down this debt aggressively? So I looked at refinance, staying in the typical standard repayment option. Of course, there's like the income-driven repayment option. And I also had to evaluate my expenses. What things give me great joy? What things do I actually want to spend on as I'm going down this journey to pay down my debt aggressively? Because like you, I feel like debt is a tool. And I also don't want anyone to eat beans and rice if you don't want to eat beans and rice just to pay down the debt. Like, you are working hard, you are alive, and so you should enjoy the present. So that's what I did. I created a strategy. I ended up refinancing my student loans because I knew that if I had a lower interest rate, that would allow more of the money that I could put forth to touch the principal and pay down the debt, opposed to all going to interest. So I refinanced from a 6.8% to a 3.5%. And really, it became a game. Like, I gamified it. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I could pay this much this month. Let's see if I could pay more. Let's see if I could pay more. And how else can I cut expenses that really don't provide any value to my life? And when I paid off the last set, we had just moved to Boston. I paid it off in October of 2019. And my daughter was about 1 at that time. And so, and I actually may be wrong on these dates, but so we had a baby. We had just moved from Atlanta, and my husband was still in his training, and it was a lot, but we were able to make it work. And, a lot of times some people say that, oh, well, that's not that impressive because you were with a partner. And definitely there were some shared expenses with my partner. But I just want to encourage, because I know a lot of your audience is women physicians, that I pay every single dime by myself. Yes, I had some support with some of the shared expenses, like, utilities and things of that nature, but my partner was still in training at that time. So it is possible. It is doable, as long as you have a plan. You evaluate what gives you the most meaning, and you put your energy towards that.
I love that. And I will say that, sometimes as humans, when we're trying to resist doing the work, or there's fear that's in between that's maybe making it feel harder to get started, it is sometimes easy to look at someone talking or sharing and trying to find out why they are privileged compared to you. And there are different kinds of privileges. I have a whole podcast episode on privilege. And we all are. Yes, you may have privileges that I don't have. Maybe Brittany's privileges, maybe she had a partner or not have a partner. But it doesn't help to elevate someone else's privilege and make it seem like you don't have any either. And I always say that everybody has their unique journey, like you were saying as well, which is, if she paid it off in 2 years and 9 months, Fine, let's even assume that her partner is a privilege. Then you do yours without a partner in 5, which is still way better than having hopelessness around your situation or thinking it's not possible. So it is possible, number one, but asking yourself, how can a version of this be possible for me, right? Yes, maybe if you're a single mom, it's harder to find childcare to go learn about, whatever you want to learn about. But how can I, right? I think the quality of our lives is affected by the quality of our questions, and asking like the how can I and what could it look like for me in my own different unique situation is probably more helpful than like, well, and all that stuff that sometimes we all want to do. So I'm not just talking
Yes.
about y'all. I'm talking about me too. It's normal. So I've done it, and that's why I know that it's not helpful. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with that. And recently, because we're kind of in this phase of Paralympics now, I've been witnessing just phenomenal athletes and how sometimes we would look and think, oh, there's so many limitations, but God still gave them a gift in the midst of, and how much more powerful can their story be? That they were able to see what they had within them and utilize that to fulfill something that most of us who are completely able with, people would say that we're normal and overprivileged could not accomplish. And so it's just a great testament and something that I share with my daughter more so. She's 5, about to turn 6. And so she really understands. And so I recently showed her a picture of a man who was blind and she loves to run. I love to run too. So he was running track and I was like, oh, and this is his guide. See, we all need help at some point, and God gave us different talents and gifts so that we didn't have to, or we don't have to do this alone. Like there's always someone there to support us. So I love what you're saying about, not looking at someone else's privilege, turn inward, but also know that wherever you are, you don't have to do this alone. That's why God gave you one talent and gift for you to share with the world and for others to share to bring you along this journey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. So you mentioned something about finishing training and realizing that, having the awareness that maybe you're going to be one of the higher earning people in your family. I'm curious to hear, how has that impacted your journey to making your own personal finances work? And if you have needed to learn or execute any kind of boundaries around finances on your own journey.
Mm-hmm. So this has been a challenge. I think just matriculating through school in general, it definitely can be a challenge because what I realized is that sometimes there are issues that are not necessarily your issues that other people might want your input on or want you to solve. So one of the things that I've learned through this process and that has been fruitful in other areas besides just personal finance, career, as well as just personal lives, is saying the serenity prayer and just knowing the things that I can impact and knowing the things that I cannot impact. And as a high earner in my family, there's also a lot of expectation. And although I have more money than some members of my family, it doesn't devalue the impact that they have on the lives of others. And so I really am so eternally grateful to everyone in my family because I didn't get here alone. And if it's that, they supported me by dropping me off somewhere to some type of class or I used to do pageants, coming to my pageant to support me, or just sharing a word to say, Brittne, you can do this. This is possible for you. So it has been really great to be a beacon of hope, not only just for some of the older members of my family, but also the younger members of my family and the community, because Flint has unfortunately faced a lot of destitution and still, with the Flint water crisis, that this is possible. It has also been helpful to know that, at least for me, I accept part of the responsibility, right? So if someone needs help, I actually have established an account that puts money aside for those moments. So I don't have to think about, oh, well, if I give to them, then I'm going to be sacrificing from my investments, or my family's not going to be able to do this, because I've already prepared to help. Because for me, I'm grateful and I understand that I didn't get here alone. And so this is part of that giving back, right? It doesn't begin or end with me. Like, I'm in the middle, right? To carry the journey forward. So that has also been very helpful. And another thing is, I've always said, you know, when you teach someone a skill, they're able to do it again. They're able to produce more, instead of me just always preparing your meals, setting the plate in front of you, and then now you're eating. But if you never know or understand how to go to the grocery store, or how to cook, or how to turn on the stove. So I try to use moments to teach. My nephew spent 2 months with us recently, and it was such a transformative period for not only him, but also for my mother. He was living with my mother for a while. And, grandmas, they like to do everything. And I was like, well, he has to bump his head. And he bumped his head a couple of times. But that pain, I think, it codes differently. It imprints differently in your brain than if you never experience the pain. So sometimes how I support family members is holding space for them to make a mistake, knowing that it could occur, and to support them through that mistake, whether that's through mentorship or financial support, but allowing them to go through that process so that they can learn from the journey.
I love it. And I 100% agree with you. And I've seen this play out in so many lives of even personal relationships, where sometimes when we've suffered or struggled through a problem, we know how painful it was. And we're trying to protect other people, especially those we love, from those, right? We're like, if I wish someone could have done this for me, so I'm going to do that for them. But what we don't realize is that sometimes those pains is why we are who we are, right? And so, and that comes into play when you have kids, and whether it's like other family members, but not being too quick to save people can actually be a good thing. So I'm curious to hear from your perspective. I know your daughter is still young, but what are some of the things that you're thinking as and she's 5, so there are things she can learn right now, but what are some ways that you're impacting her when it comes to not just the opportunities she has through you, but how to talk to her about maybe some parts of money and life and all that stuff that you wish you had maybe
Mm-hmm. Being with Brooke, my bubbly Brooke, she's so bright, and she's amazing. I mean, clearly she's my daughter, so that's what I think. It's a biased opinion here, people.
I mean, subjectively, objectively, by every data possible. Yes, please. Yes, Brooke. I love her name.
But, one of the things that my mother really gave me was just understanding the value of money. So I don't know if it was necessarily healthy. I think I had to unlearn a couple of things, because she grew up in poverty. And so that poverty mindset was kind of passed down. But this woman, she knew her math. She's at the cash register calculating as the cashier is ringing things up. And oftentimes her tally was correct when they got things wrong. And so one of those just key tenets is just mindfulness, paying attention to where your money is going. And that's one of the things that I teach my clients all the time. I remember I just had a session with my client, and we were doing this net worth activity. And we finished the coaching call. And she was like, oh, so I actually want you to take a look at my net worth calculator and give your insights. I'm like, girl, you don't know we've been talking about this the entire time. Because for me, it doesn't matter necessarily what that number is, right? Because we take on debt, we can utilize debt as a tool. That part of that debt, you might have some equity in, but a portion of that is going to be some liability, and it's going to adjust the numbers a bit. But it's just having the awareness of what is what and using that information to create a strategy. So when I'm talking to Brooke, a lot of it is just about awareness. She loves flowers. We go into Trader Joe's. She's like, Mommy, can I get some flowers? I'm like, yeah, let's look at the different types of flowers that you can get. What numbers do you see here? She's still understanding the cents, like the 0.99 and 0.86 and like what that all means. But she knows that $10 is greater than $3. So looking at what you can get for this amount. And I give her a budget. Okay, you have $5. Which of these flowers can you choose? We want to make sure that we stay within reason, but we spend our money on things that are meaningful to us. I'm also teaching her the value of giving money away and just knowing that we are privileged. She is privileged. I don't want my kids to be entitled, but I want them to acknowledge that they have things that other kids don't have. So she has been saving up her money from the tooth fairy. I think she got like what? I don't know, like $1.25 or something. And there was a man on the street and they have a sign and she's like, oh, is that person homeless? What are they doing with this sign? Where do they get their signs from? Where do they get their food from? And just trying to teach her how different people have different lives. And it's up to her to choose how she wants to live and that she can also help others along their journey. So I remember one day a man was in the middle of the street and he had a sign and she's like, oh, Mommy, I think I have some money from the tooth fairy. She found her little purse. It was like on the floor, but then the light turned green, right? And I had to go because this is a busy street. And she just started to bawl. She wanted to have that moment where she could help somebody else with what had been given to her. So I circle back around trying to find this man, and she eventually was able to give him her money from the tooth fairy. So just teaching her that money is not everything. It has some value that can help others along. And to whom much is given, much is required. And so if you have it and you can give to someone else to help them along, then that is the greatest gift that you can give to yourself. Because honestly, it gives me great gratification and satisfaction that I can help someone else along.
I love it. And I ask that because, so many people want more, better, or as good as they had it. Because if they grew up and they got good things, passed down to them in terms of like the learning, the wisdom. And sometimes people are wondering, how old, when do I start? And I like to remind people that the money stories, like your money beliefs, they start at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we talk enough about we talk a lot about imperfect parenting, and I don't want people to think they need to be perfect to parent their kid. Sure, I'm not even trying to work on being perfect. I ain't gonna be perfect, and that's a destination, right? But the key is understanding and becoming aware of the impact what we're learning has on our kids, right? Because for you, the knowledge that you've given yourself, the seeing what was passed on to you from previous generation, editing that, improving on that, and now being able to pass that on to her is such a great thing that's going to pay her so much dividends in future. So I love. Thanks for sharing that with our audience. And you're not too young. You can be age appropriate. And so that's why I'm glad you have a 5-year-old like mine, or my youngest is 6, and then we have a 9-year-old, and then we have an 11-year-old. So they're definitely, even between the 11 and the 9, what they're learning is different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most people think about the math part only, but they don't think about the values part. Mm-hmm. And there's one thing, passing generational money, but if you're passing on generation to money that someone with like wacky values, you're just going to mess them up. Mm-hmm. So thank you for doing the work that you do, because all of us doing the work in our own lives is going to help everybody as a collective in this world and our country together. So your work matters.
Thank you.
Another question for you. So how long have you been an attending now?
Oh, girl, you about to have me say my age on your podcast.
Well, I'm 40. I go first.
It's so funny because my husband and I were talking about the recertification, and I was like, oh, I'm going to have to start studying for this. I haven't studied for an exam that long since we've had children. So I am now 8 years out of residency. I've been attending for 8 years now, and it's crazy. It's crazy how, fast time flies.
I love it. I love it. Time does fly for sure. I was like, I mean, I've been with the same hospital, even though I'm locums or per diem with them, but I was with them when I was employed. And even the nurses are like, we can't believe time has flown so much. So definitely, definitely. I'm curious to hear from your own perspective, what is the impact of you being intentional with your finances, being empowered in your finances? What impact has that played in how you show up as a physician, as a hospitalist?
It's a huge relief. I mean, there's so many of my colleagues who say that they can't work part-time because of their student loans, because of their mortgage. They're picking up shifts. Now, if they make the deal sweet enough, I'll go into the hospital. Don't get me wrong. Right. But the fact that I have a choice to not work as much as I desire is phenomenal. It means that when I show up, I can do the work that is meaningful and impactful to the patients. There is literature out there that shows that when a physician is burned out, they provide a lower quality of care. And not only do I do work in hospital medicine, clinical work, I also teach the residents about patient safety and quality improvement. And I know I've been there. As a mom, 2 young kids, you sleep deprived, you're tired, and you go in for that shift, how much, I wouldn't say worse, but worse, little time I give to my patients because I had little time for myself. And the fact that I don't have the financial stress and can be semi in control of my time has been the greatest gift I can give to not only myself, but also to my husband and to my family, because that means I can show up for them. A stressed out mommy is not a positive parent. I am yelling more. And I pass that down. I don't want my children to be anxious. I don't want my children to feel like, oh, mommy is sacrificing her time with me because she has to do work. And work is more important than me. So paying attention to my finances has been, I don't always want to redo the budget and, respond to all the state planning stuff and switch everything around. It's work. But on the other side of that, the value is so much greater than the hours that I might spend in dedicating to that task. So I just say the mental ease, the freedom, and the time is just so great.
I love that. And I love the deep breath you took when I asked that question. You're like, where do I start? Right? And that's the key is that's what people are missing out on when they're not doing that. And we don't think about brushing our teeth much. I don't think anybody loves brushing. I don't think anybody likes taking a equipment and up and down, repetitive side to the side, swipe right or whatever, swipe left, swipe. Nobody actually, but we don't think about it because we know the consequences of not brushing our teeth. And so we do it every day, 1 to 2 times a day. Dentists may say after other stuff, I'm like, yo, you got 2 times a day? That's good enough. Good enough. Good enough. Y'all don't come after me. I love you, Natalie, but I'm talking to my friends. But the bottom line is we've done it because generationally we've been told the importance. We know the consequences. We don't want those consequences. So we've done it now without question so often that it's become a habit that when we don't do it, we feel like there's something is missing. And I think that when it comes to finances, doing things like that, creating habits and patterns, or doing things repetitively to the point where they become habit, can be so helpful for people. And since you brought up budgeting, I'm curious to hear what are some of the habits that you've found that's been helpful for you or some of the people that you've worked with?
The biggest habit is coupling the thing that you don't want to do with something that you want to do. It's all about behavior change, right? It is all about behavior change. And I think oftentimes when we think about money, we want to know about what assets should I invest in? What is the stock market returning? Oh, what is going to be, I don't know, my effective tax rate? How do I save more on taxes? Blah, 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 blah. All of the logical things, all of the numbers. And I don't want to like poo-poo those. Those are also important, but it's those small habits that we develop that are really going to help you to move the needle. So if I have to go in and kind of recalibrate things because we recently purchased a new home and now Brooke is in kindergarten and not in daycare. So we have a little bit of savings, and take a look at, our asset allocation. I'll get me some sushi. I'll put some music on, just making sure that I create a space that gives me joy and fulfillment and tells my brain that this is actually the work that you want to be doing, and making sure that every time it feels like a comfortable position, it feels like a safe space, it feels like something that is enjoyable, so that my brain can therefore make it a habit and I see the reward on the other end of that. Having some accountability when you're just getting started is so imperative, because we oftentimes don't show up for ourselves. I don't know why, but we don't. So sometimes what I've done is, if I see that I'm struggling to do the thing that I know I need to do, I pay somebody to help me to do the thing that I don't want to do. So with our estate planning, I knew that it was so important for us to have this in order. And I tried to do it myself, downloaded the Susie Orman, whatever guide thing she has, and I still didn't do it. And I also didn't have the confidence, because I was like, if I mess this up, then what is going to be the impact of that mistake? And for me, the gravity of that was heavier than the $7,000 to $8,000 that I paid to an estate attorney. Right. So I have found that when I see that there is some cognitive dissonance, there's some internal interference to do the thing that I want to do, I've made a habit of just finding the money to pay for that service. And I understand the value of that. And I am, I pay for it. And so we have a CPA, a tax accountant, because one year my husband and I got an argument over our taxes with our previous tax accountant. I said, oh, having this conflict over some taxes? What? We got conflict elsewhere that we bring on ourselves. Like, I don't want this to be a moment of tension for us. And so we pay a decent amount of money for a tax accountant. They help to give us reminders and all of that. So that's some habits that I've just known that, like, I don't have to do this on my own. And, sometimes they say if you pay money, you pay attention. And that has definitely been true to me and for me. And then I just make it a habit to go through our pay stubs, look at our investments, look at our accounts. I do it more often than this, like very flippantly as I'm, doing other things, but to actually sit down and do that monthly. And then I give a report out to my husband, like, hey, here are where things stand. Here's what is coming up as far as our liabilities and some of the other financial tasks. And my husband and I actually sit down and we go to a whiteboard and we write out our goals and we write out, what we need to do at least quarterly to make sure that we're on the same page.
I love it. I agree. I'm definitely pro, paying for value. And, it's interesting. As you were talking, I remembered one of my clients in the money school who she found my podcast somewhere. I don't even know where. And she said she listened to like 100 episodes. She's like, I was just like binging the whole thing. But what she found out that with the binging, she was able to make some changes. But it was when she joined the money school that she was like, okay, I was getting benefits on the podcast, but after joining, it has been like off the chain. And the things that she hadn't done in years, literally within a year of being in our program, she was able to accomplish it. And part of that is, as much as it sometimes sounds a little odd, but when we pay attention. Like even when I pay for things, if the free things can be of value and I like my time is of value, so I don't even do free. I don't give free if it's not of value, and I don't take free if it's not of value. But when I pay, like sometimes I did an in-person event in Atlanta. It was so much fun. We had an amazing time. My planner that I hired was definitely not cheap. And I'm like, May, you are expensive. She's like, I know, Latifah, I know. I'm like, but thank God I know the value. And I teach my women about return on investment. And, we did the first one. We're going to be doing the next one next year in 2025 by God's grace in San Diego, California. And I'm like, hey, May, you think I'm going to do that? No, woman, get in here, right? And just that, it's so important. Like, and I think that's where there can be some misalignment for people. And I tell people that if you're unwilling to let your money go work for you, you literally are saying that you don't trust that money is going to come back to you.
Mm-hmm.
And leaders go first. You lead by example. Like I love paying people. I want my staff to get paid. I want people to I am so happy to pay people. And it wasn't always like that. I've developed the happiness to pay people because I pay or I employ or hire people that I know are going to give me value. And when they do, I want to pay them joyfully because I also
Right.
know that when my clients are with me, I lead first. If I'm not going to do that, it's going to be out of integrity. I had someone on the podcast who was asking, I was talking to her before the podcast and she was saying she started a new podcast and she wanted reviews. And I said, let me ask you a question. Have you left a review to the podcast that you listen to? Right? And she was like, oh, she hadn't actually thought about that because many of us don't. But I was like, when you leave reviews for the podcast you listen to, you're more likely and you're going to find it easier to ask people to leave podcasts for yours because you have gone first and you're not asking for what you haven't done. So anyways, you talking just brings all those thoughts to mind. Another question for you. Oh, sorry, were you going to say something, Brittany? Go
Oh,
ahead.
I just wanted to say, I love that. It kind of sets the intention, your actions. It becomes even part of what you said, the habit, right? When you do that, when you give to others, then the universe gives back to you. And I see the reciprocation so often in my life. And I'm just so grateful that I had that experience. Like you said, lead, and therefore you will have that outcome, that followership. And that's been so true for me as well.
I love that. So the other question I have for you, and as we kind of circle to the end, is when you think about investment, because, as you know, investment is so important, right? We talk about the spending, but I always want to make sure that I talk about investing because investing is what are some of the tips that you share with people that maybe you've used for yourself as well when it comes to learning how to grow their money outside of the employed setting?
Mm-hmm. Make it simple. That's, make it simple, make it easy. I think oftentimes when we think about investing, there's a lot of FOMO, like this fear of missing out, because we see those big wins. And one of the things that I always understand is that no one just started today and they had this huge win. Oftentimes we don't know the backstory. And oftentimes we also don't know exactly how many failures there were. So when I am talking about investing, one is just don't have the fear of missing out. You want to make sure that you put your money to work for you. But I don't want you to go and invest in cryptocurrency or something else just because you see someone else doing it. I always encourage people to do tried and true, make secure and informed decisions, especially with their investing. And to make it simple, as women in healthcare, we are so extremely busy. You mentioned that you have 3 kids. I have 2, and I'm like, oh Lord, how am I doing this some days? But by making it simple and making it a priority with our investing, I don't have to think about, oh, did I choose the stocks or should I sell or did I buy that option? And nah, I ain't got time for that. Like nobody got time for that, right? I do what is tried and true. So making it simple for me means automating our investments to go the same amount as part of our budget each and every month in our brokerage account. We max out our 401ks, 403bs, 457bs, our Roth IRAs. And then I just have it reinvested. So the dividends, anything that I earn is automatically reinvested. So I know that this is happening even though I'm not manipulating the things. Now I still go in and I check in on it. And sometimes I manipulate it thin, but I don't have to have this burden, this mental load of, did I do the thing? Did I invest the money? Because I know that I prioritized it and I made the systems simple enough for me to manage. I also like to encourage women to do it on their own. Studies have shown that between the S&P, investing in the S&P 500 and active management, that the S&P often outperforms active managers. And even when there's like the tumultuous economic climate that you see, that there's about 50-50. So if I'm going to have a 50-50 chance, why am I paying an active manager 1% of assets under management to be about the same, right? So when you create simple systems and prioritize your investing, then you will win out each and every time. So I like to use the data, the information to encourage my clients and encourage myself that I can also do this. And I'm going to make it simple enough for me to do it.
I love it. I love it. So much good stuff. I mean, it's been great just sharing you and just letting people hear your experience and learn from you. And I have to say that it's also been good just having, time to just sit down and chat. That's one of the things that I love about podcasting. It's just a chance to, get to meet other humans, learn what they're doing and just be human. So Thank you for coming to hang out with us. Last question for you. If someone is like, oh, this has been helpful, I like hearing from you, like where can they find you? What's the best way to get connected with you and the work that you do?
Yes. You can always listen to Wealth Minded MD podcast. That's with me and my co-host, Dr. Alicia Taylor. You can also find me on LinkedIn. That is Brittne, Brittne Halford on LinkedIn. And I also have a YouTube channel. You'll see me bust a move. I don't know why, but I kind of like to dance in my videos. And you'll see my children as well in some of the videos. So YouTube channel as well. So LinkedIn, podcast, and YouTube.
I love it. And what's the name of the YouTube?
Joyful Wealth.
Fantastic. Well, and we'll make sure we have the link in the show note as well. So it's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you for coming to hang out with me and to our audience. I hope this has been of value. If you've learned something from this, please share with other humans in your life that can benefit from it, because the goal is this. I don't know your friends. I don't know your people. You know them. And you're in their lives so that you can share goodness with them. So if this has been good for you, then make sure you share with them so that you can be even of more value in their life. So thank you guys. Love you and see you in the next episode.
Thank you.